So thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Sibel Dasti. I am one of the manager in the international recruitment team at InUni, a sister company of Global University System. I am very excited to welcome our premium university, Canterbury Christ Church University, which is located in beautiful Kent, just 1 hour from London and 20 minutes from the seaside in the south of the UK. Today, we will be discussing actually the different course opportunities to start your education in the UK. And for that, I am very happy to be joined by our colleague from Canterbury Christ Church University. So Richard Davey, International Lead, and Richard Veneer, International Business Development Manager. And we will be also supported during the webinar by my colleague Sukanya from our marketing team. Before we start, just some housekeeping rules. You are all in mute. For any question, please use the Q&A box rather than the chat box, and we will be happy to answer all your questions at the end of the presentation. So for the moment, enjoy. Richard, up to you.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining this. I apologise for the slightly later start. If there was one at your end, we were just sorting out the presentation mode in Zoom. You can blame me for that. My name is Richard Davey, as has already been said. I am in the Centre for Language and Linguistics at Canterbury Christ Church University, and I'm the international lead there. I will just introduce today 2 key preparatory programs for you to take in order to proceed on to take a degree at Canterbury Christ Church University. That's the International Foundation Programme and the pre-sessional course in academic English skills over the spring-summer. So I've already introduced myself. There's one more person to introduce who can't be here. That's my colleague Martin Spear, who is the course director for those 2 programs. So we'll start by talking about the International Foundation Programme. Now, the idea is it's a pre-undergraduate year. And when I say year, I mean it's an academic year. So if you start in September, the teaching finishes in beginning of May, for example. If it's a January entry, then it finishes later. So it's an academic year in the UK terms. And the idea is it takes you at a certain language level below what you need to be for undergraduate study, and it raises your language level to the point where you can then progress onto your degree. But also, and very importantly, equally importantly, it's not just a language program. It's designed to introduce you to life and study, academic study, in the United Kingdom at Canterbury Christ Church University. So it's a whole preparation, not just a language course. That's very important that you know that. You can see on screen there the entry requirements for joining the IFP year. So if you complete the IFP successfully, you pass what you need to pass, then you are guaranteed progression onto a degree of your choice, so long as you have met any additional entry requirements. So your academic record from school, for instance, has to meet the entry requirements for that degree, but in addition to the IFP. But if you pass the IFP and satisfy those requirements, you can progress to a following degree. Now, hopefully you've recognized that as a modern style of parachute. We'll come back to this picture and this idea again with the pre-sessional, but the idea of the International Foundation Programme is like a parachute. It gives you a soft landing on the ground before you start your degree. If you didn't do the preparation and went directly into the degree, it would be a very hard landing and you might break your legs. That's why you use a parachute. So the idea of the foundation program, the International Foundation Program, we help you have a soft landing in Canterbury Christ Church University so that you're ready with your English language, your study skills, your knowledge of how things work in the university and life here in Canterbury in the UK. So when you start your main degree, you are properly ready. You land softly and you're ready to walk. That's the idea. This is what a former student said who took the IFP. Kay, I'll let you read that. And hers is a great story, a great success story. I remember Kay joining the program, and I've met her again on campus over the years afterwards as she does her business and management degree. So she's an example of what we want to achieve, and she really benefited, as she said, from doing the program and the advantages it gave her. Now, as I said, it's an academic year. In terms of teaching, that's broken into 2 semesters, and you do 3 at the moment. If you come in next year, you do 3 modules. Think of it as little courses, 3 modules in each semester. So you can see there what's listed in semester 1. Now, those titles don't tell you much. Well, I'll explain more about them in a minute. So 2/3 of it is focusing on your English language skills specifically. And the third one, investigating contemporary topics, is focusing much more on things that you actually study using your English. But I'll tell you more about that in the following slides. So in the English for University study, we're focusing on the kinds of skills that you will need in order to do your degree. Things like giving presentations is just standard now. Everybody does it. But obviously, there are also writing skills that you need to practice. Ways of writing, doing assignments, writing exams. Those are the kinds of things you will need to do on your degree. English for University study, the 2 modules will cover those kind of skills. They'll introduce you to practices like seminar participation. So you're given something to read. Somebody's chosen to present what they understand from their reading, and then everybody in the class discusses it. That's the kind of thing we will already be doing at a lower academic level, but we will be doing it as part of those EUS, English for University study modules. You'll get a chance, for instance, to practice another common kind of academic assignment, to research and produce a poster about a subject and give a little presentation based on the subject of that poster. And to note, that's a useful skill not just for doing your degree, but later in life. If you go to any academic or indeed professional or industry conference, you will often see people giving presentations from posters. So the things that you will learn from the IFP and then on into your degree are the things that skills that you can take with you going into your life after your degree, into the work and your future. There's one more word, an important word on there, which is referencing. What exactly it means, it doesn't matter at the moment, but it's an essential skill as part of academic study. You find out information, you get evidence, you do reading, you look at other things, you include references to that knowledge in your own academic work, and there are particular ways that you indicate that, how you've used things that you've read, for example. It's called referencing. It's a very difficult skill to do well, and we start you early in thinking about it and how to do it. That's one example of how we are preparing you for normal academic work after the International Foundation Programme. The other module you do in the first semester is called Investigating Contemporary Topics. So if EUS, English for University Study, is about the kinds of academic skills you need, this is using those academic skills to study particular contemporary topics, mainly related to Britain. You've moved to a new country, you're going to start studying a new environment, and we're going to get you used to thinking about being in a different country, being in a different environment by, for example, studying different topics, current topics in the country that you're now in the United Kingdom and the area around. They could be about the media, our political system, about the law, about arts and culture, these kind of things, a whole range of topics that we will investigate in ways that you can do and are appropriate to the level of your English and your academic level at that point. So it's a good way in to getting a feel, getting used to how you're going to work. You're given subjects that you've got to study and understand and present or write about. Investigating contemporary topics is a beginning, a rehearsal, as it were, for investigating other kind of topics that you will do when you start your degree. Now, I've talked about the semester 1 modules. There are 3 modules that you do in semester 2. So that would be, say, from the end of January to beginning of May if you start in September. And you'll see there's a core module called Academic English. This builds on English for University Study in semester 1, but takes it further and to a higher level. Much more stuff about referencing and bibliography, much more stuff about assignment, writing, planning, more practice and discussion, those kind of things. So, and you will be assessed in various ways, depending on the particular module you do. Very often assessment is by 2 or 3 different bits of work that you have to do over the module, and then you put them together in a portfolio, and then that is the final assignment for that module. But how you get assessed will depend on the different modules. What I can say is assessment will combine a variety of different ways of working, speaking, writing, for instance, and that variety of different assignment types and different ways of working matches or reflects the variety of assignments you will get when you study your degree afterwards. So we're trying to give you some rehearsal for your experiences in your degree afterwards. So that's the core module, Academic English, and then you take 2 from 2 option 1s. Now there are 3 choices there of which you would take 2. Please note that not all modules necessarily run at every given year or at every given point in the year, but we try to give you choice where choice is possible. I'll explain what those 3 choice modules are in the following slides. Academic English, I've already explained. I won't say anything more about that. I'll move on and talk about the other modules. Exploring Humanities and Social Sciences is a broad module covering a variety of topics. You could consider it a more academic way of studying what we studied already in contemporary topics. Not exactly the same topics, but the same sort of spread of subjects across arts, humanities, social sciences. I've given you there some typical topic areas that you may investigate, although exactly which ones may change year on year. So culture and identity, for example, issues of social inequality, contemporary media and film, health, education, language, gender, and so on. So there's an indication of the range of things you'll study. And again, the idea is how you will study them will be like how you would study them when you go on to do your degree. The kinds of websites you look at, the kind of things that you read, what you have to do with the information you get, how you've got to write about it, and so on. So it's giving you a broad but flexible sense of how you would study different subjects. That's Exploring Humanities and Social Sciences. Exploring Management and Organizations. It works a similar way. I'll let you read that for a moment. Now, the idea of this module is you're all going to go on, I assume, to join the working world after you've done your degree. It doesn't matter what kind of work that you do, you will be almost certainly be in an organization or working with organizations. There could be schools, there could be charities, there could be government departments, there could be private businesses, doesn't matter. Work, organizations, the working world, that's the context that we study in exploring management and organizations. So you will look at topics like team working or managing operations and issues that arise from that, public information and marketing, equity and inclusion. Again, all of these topics are common in whatever kind of work you do. Those are the kind of topics that we study. And that focus on your working future is continued in the curriculum, whichever degree you do at Canterbury Christ Church University. The working world and your work beyond it is a strong theme. Experiencing a specific academic subject is a little different from the other two. I'll let you read that. Now, the idea is, if we can arrange it, we can't always arrange it, but if we can arrange it, an idea is there is an academic course at an appropriate foundation level, and if it is the subject you're interested in studying, you can, the word is audit that. In other words, you attend the lectures, the sessions, but you're not directly taking the course, directly taking the module. We give you other work to do based on your attendance on that module. So the idea is it gives you a real life experience of being in that kind of classroom, even though you're not yet, in terms of language, for instance, at the level to study that subject. Again, if that's possible, we offer it as an option, if it's possible. Now, that was the International Foundation Programme, and that's a pre-undergraduate preparation programme over an academic year, 2 semesters. The pre-sessional course in academic English skills, I'm just going to call it the pre-sessional, that's a shorter course where the focus is simply language and academic skills, and could be taken either before an undergraduate degree or before a postgraduate degree, a master's course, for example. So it will do both levels of study, but it is a shorter, more intensive course. Depending on your language level, I'll come to the language level entry requirements in a minute, you can take a 10-week version or a 6-week version. This is full-time, you understand. And you can take a version in person in Canterbury on our campus here, which I have to say will be the preferred option because you already have the direct experience of being here on campus, living here and so on. And you can see the dates for that. There is also an online option that you can take from where you are, and that starts significantly earlier. And the reason that starts earlier is once the course is finished, it gives the time for sorting out visas and so on for to come to Canterbury and join your degree at the right time. So the online version has to be earlier. On the right of the slide, you can see a screenshot of the web page for the pre-sessional course in academic English skills. You will see there's a pull down menu. So what you have to do is select the correct month and the correct number of weeks. So if you want to do, for instance, the 10-week online, you select May full-time 10 weeks. And if you want to do the 6 weeks In Canterbury, you select July full-time 6 weeks. Once you've looked at the web page, it becomes a bit clearer, but it's just to make that clear. Of course, our colleagues at InUni will be happy to assist you if there are difficulties with those kind of applications. These are the language level entry requirements. And you realize, of course, that's the level you enter at, and our aim is to make you that much better, so the level you achieve at the end of the 10 weeks or 6 weeks is sufficient to meet the requirements of our degree, and thus for you to gain a visa to study full-time if you need one. Now, we've seen this picture before, and it's relevant here again. The parachute, the soft landing, so that when you land, you can land and walk immediately. That's the idea of the pre-sessional course as well. That soft landing, so that when you start your degree, you're already walking and can build up to a run very quickly. If you're not properly prepared and you try go direct to your degree, you'll start lying down. It takes a lot longer, even if theoretically you've got the language you need. So the parachute helps you to land and walk straight away when you start your degree. Again, here's another story from a previous student. I remember her as well. She was here with us last year. And note the emphasis there. When I start in September, I know all the things I need to know. I'm ready. I know I'm not finding out all these things at the same time as trying to study my subject. I know about them already, whatever they are. The systems for assignment, how you do referencing, these kind of things, you already know what they are. I'll let you read the text on that. And hopefully you'll realize from that that it has similar aims, as it were, for the IFP, the International Foundation Programme, but it's more intensive, more focused. It's not just a language course. Simply put, it's focusing on the skills you need, the language and study skills you need for your degree, covering things like the university's virtual learning environment, library search, Turnitin. A lot of these things, for instance, students who come directly from school in the UK, they don't get so much of this kind of preparation, and they're still trying to find out and learn about it while they're doing their degree. If you do the pre-sessional, you get that done and you know about it when you start. That makes life a lot easier, and I've heard many students tell me so. And again, like the IFP, the way you are assessed, the assessments for the program are designed to reflect the kinds of things you will do on your degree following. And if you achieve the level you need to achieve in the pre-sessional program, then you count as having met the language requirements for full-time study in the UK, and then can gain the academic visa that you need to go on to your degree. Now, again, like the IFP, there will be other academic conditions that you need to meet based on your school transcript This is to prepare you in terms of the language and language skills that you need to meet in order to get the visa and progress onto your degree. I offer you just some pieces of advice just at the end here. We're based in Canterbury. You can see the ring round there showing you the area. I believe my colleague Richard here will already have talked about Canterbury and the surroundings and where we are. And it's a good idea, if it's all possible, to be in or near Canterbury. And that makes attendance much easier, less time and less expense traveling. How you think about the time you spend with us will also make a difference. I can spot from students I teach the ones who are here to learn, and they're the ones I'm confident will do well. They're the ones I see who are attending, and they're the ones who complete the tasks. Equally importantly, they're the ones who, if they're not sure about what the tasks, what the work is, they ask me, they ask the tutors, they find out, they help themselves to succeed. They don't just hope we'll help them. They help themselves, and then we help them as well. That's what you need. And a piece of advice that I've read in all sorts of places for improving your language, let alone improving what you know in academic terms, read more. That can actually include listening more in terms of English, but certainly reading more. If you're interested in a subject, find out more about it, read more about it, listen to things more about it, input, input, input. If you're interested, you feed your interest, you do so much better. I can tell who's interested. Thank you very much for your time. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Richard, thank you very much. That was a very insightful presentation. I would like to pass on to Richard Vinier for some question about the accommodation during pre-sessional. How does it work?
Yeah, of course. Well, we offer some fantastic accommodation on our campus, Sybil. So I think affordability is definitely a really, really important word when we talk about Canterbury and we talk about our accommodation. So Canterbury is a very, very affordable city, both to live in and also to study in. And our accommodation, we've got a range of fantastic accommodation starting from around £124 per week all the way up to £200 per week. So of course we'll offer accommodation if students would like for the duration of the pre-sessional, which, as Richard was saying, really does make sense because living in Canterbury close to the university really is, I believe, one of the things that guarantees success. Wouldn't you agree, Richard? It's so important, isn't it, for students to live close by and be able to walk into class every day?
It makes a huge difference. Yeah, just for the quality of their life, as much as study. Good quality of life is better quality of study, generally speaking. Yes.
Yeah.
How many hours of attendance does the International Foundation Year require per day? Is it a full week, for example?
You talking about the International Foundation Program?
Yes, the International Foundation Year.
I think it amounts to, I've got to double check on this. Hang on, I'm just doing, because blocks of things are timetabled in different places over the week, you understand. So I would expect to be on campus for certainly 3 days a week, if not more.
3 days.
It depends how the things are blocked in the week. We're not in absolute control of that. That we go into university-wide timetabling system.
And
So,
get the International Foundation Year student actually work during their free time? Is there a limitation?
I can't speak to visa regulations and limitation. I know work is possible and students do it, but of course that shouldn't conflict with their attendance on their
study.
academic work, needless to say.
Yeah. Another question that comes up among students when they make the choice, between international foundation and embedded foundation, what would be the main difference between the two for a student to make the decision?
International foundation, the criteria for it is your language level is crucially lower than it would be for the integrated foundation. The integrated foundation is also aimed at students entering from the UK. So the teaching and the language is not accommodated, not taken down for the language level of the students. You're treated as a student amongst all other students from the UK. No concession is made. There is also, I think, if your academic level is, and it depends on where you're from, the academic level you achieve at school is not treated as equivalent to a certain level, then the International Foundation year, I think, also adds as a top up on that. But the language level is the main one.
Another question that comes up among students is the International Foundation year at Canterbury Christ Church University be valid if I choose to go to another university?
Students do use it for that purpose. Students do use it for that purpose, yes. Okay. But that's at the discretion of the university they're going to. It's not, these things are not, it's not like an IELTS test or something that has a kind of universal validity. But people have used the foundation for that purpose, yeah.
Yeah, we are lucky that most of our students who choose to stay at Canterbury, they fall in love with the city and the campus. Excellent. Yeah. Another question, for the pre-sessional, on campus, is it a combined visa with the degree, or it will be two separate visa?
It has to be two separate ones for specific visa regulations. If you have not yet met the conditions, you do have to change the visa once you've met the conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very
we're kind of used to the system now where you finish the visa application or update, if you like, is made, and then in a period at the end of the summer, and then you progress on to your degree. So once you know you've achieved the level you need at the end of the pre-sessional, then yeah, you can stay in the country and proceed on to the degree following. The online version, because you then have to apply for it, you're not even in the country, you have to apply for the visa. That's why it starts earlier in the year.
Let's say a student, but I'm talking about the International Foundation year, didn't do that well in one of the classes. Is there resides? So can the student
there is again? A reassessment possibility. Yeah, you can reassess a couple of months or two after the end of teaching.
So they will still have time to take the reset classes and move on to the degree, correct?
Yeah, well, I'm not thinking of retaking the classes, but you can retake the assessment. There is something called reassessment with attendance, but that is kind of going on for another semester. That's a rather separate matter, but there is a reassessment possibility, yes.
For the pre-sessional English online, the online version, how is the course provided? So do they have to be online? Are they watching recorded classes? How do we check that they are actually attending?
It's live online.
Live online. Okay, so they have to be.
So that's the good news.
Time,
yeah, it's real interaction.
Very good, excellent. Audience, any question? I think I went around. Anything you would like to add, Richard, Vinny?
Well, I think Richard's covered everything superbly, to be honest. I mean, you know, and as you mentioned as well in your introduction, Sybil, Canterbury really is a beautiful city in the Garden of England in Kent. I mean, coming and taking the pre-sessional in the summer, I'm sure Richard will agree, the weather will be great. You've got Canterbury, a very vibrant, multicultural city. There are many festivals as well that happen during the summer months, particularly on the coast as well, which is only 20 minutes away. So, you know, it's a great time, I think, to be studying in the UK. And then, of course, when you successfully pass your pre-sessional, you know, then you're introduced to the university, to university life. You've met key staff as well. So as Richard was talking about, you know, it really is providing you with a soft landing. And then, you know, you can easily then transition into your chosen degree program afterwards. So yeah, I love talking about Canterbury during the summer because I think it's a great place to be actually.
It is I can testify it is a fantastic city. I spent about 6 months in Westgate on the Sea, which was very close to Canterbury.
Oh wow.
Lovely little town close to Margate, and I did enjoy every single minute I spent in Canterbury, and that was a while ago, so I'm sure now the entertainment is even better than when I was younger.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Probably. Great.
So, last question, just when a student, you know, finalize the international foundation year, they can apply for any degree offered by Canterbury Christ Church University, or is there any limitation, or do they have to have a certain pass grade for certain programs?
There will be an academic requirement for a particular degree, which they will have to meet separately. The IFP is mainly about the language level, mainly, I said. Obviously, our admissions colleagues, or your colleagues rather, who deal with admissions can advise on detail, but that's the basic idea. There may be, for instance, specific professional degrees like nursing, which have their own quite distinct entry requirements that are not just general university degree requirements. Again, that will be advised by your colleagues who deal with admissions.
Okay, perfect. So we don't have any more questions. I want to thank you again for this fantastic presentation. I'm sure it will help students to make the right choice to start their journey at Canterbury Christ Church University. Thanks, Richard. And thanks, Richard. And now I'm right in the middle.
Thank you all.
As I mentioned,
the lucky place to be.
I'm right in the middle, so I can make a wish. Thank you very much, everybody. Wishing you all a fantastic end of the week. And don't forget, applications are still open. So find your counselor, have a meeting, contact us on, you know, in the countries where we are actually active, and join us in September. Bye.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.